So Liqcreate was nice enough to send me an entire bottle of their wax castable resin, and I'm going to see how well it prints along with how well it casts. So let's get started. So this resin is an actual wax-based resin. That being said, it acts like a wax. So it's about 65 degrees in this room right now. And if we open this up, and this is a pretty much full container, it's about to here. And if you turn it upside down, it doesn't do anything. It leaves residue from the cap, but that's it. It's completely solid in here. So if you are using this in cold conditions, you need a heater of some sort to use this. You might also notice that this container is a silver color. Well, it's actually an aluminum container. It's actually solid aluminum, unlike other ones that are plastic. So to warm this up, you can warm up some water and let it soak in the water, and it will heat through the entire thing, shake it well, and then you can pour it, and it should be fine. So for this video, I'm just going to be using my Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. And then for my slicer program, I'm going to be using Liqcreate. And if you're looking for anything I'm using in the video, I'll have links to everything in the description below. So when it comes to the print settings, I'm basically using the ones from the manufacturer, besides the print time. I actually upped this time from 2.6 seconds to 4 seconds. And really this is thanks to another YouTube channel doing a review just like this, called Clear Mind Jewelry. And they have a ton of lost wax casting videos, so you should check them out if you haven't already. But basically to sum it up, they had problems with it at its normal print settings and they upped them, so I'm going to do that right out the gate and see what happens. So everything should be good to go, and it's going to take about 3.5 hours to print these. But before I print those, I'm going to make a prime coat file, and this is an idea from the veg oil guy, and it works like a dream. I basically use this on all castable resins, and everything sticks to the build plate every time. You can download this file in the description of the video, but basically it is a 0.02 millimeter tall square that I just scale to whatever size I need. As for the print settings, it's only 2 layers, so it's at 0.01 millimeters layer height, and it'll be burnt in at about 120 seconds. And once this print finishes, you just start your next print right on top of it. So even though it was only 3.5 hours, I let it print overnight and came back to it in the morning. But like I showed before, this stuff doesn't like being cold, and sitting here all night made everything kind of just freeze in place, so it's covered in a thick layer of uncured resin. So I tried cleaning it up how I normally do, using some 99% alcohol inside of a spray bottle and a soft toothbrush, which did a little bit, but not all that much. So it was time to try it in the wash and cure system that I have. But just keep in mind, everything is cold, so it's not really doing all that much. As you can see in the background, I have some heated ultrasonic cleaners, but I didn't know how hot this stuff can handle until after this, and I didn't want to risk melting a 3.5 hour print. But from the little bit of testing I have done, it looks like this stuff doesn't really care about heat after it's been cured, so an ultrasonic cleaner would have made quick work of this. So when printing with this, it does a pretty good job, but there are some things that you need to kind of watch out for, like the inside part of this ring. So it was printed like this, so it basically was not curing it fast enough. So this one, on the other hand, is a lot better on the inside. It still has little pock marks from all the supports, but it's a lot more round, and the back on this side is a lot better. If you look at this one, it's not as pronounced. With that said though, under here, there's some of that little globby drippiness. So orientation on how you print these really matters. And this is what it looks like when all the supports are on them. So basically I have one at 35 degrees and one at 90 degrees. And they both printed fine, but like I said, they have that little bit of a problem. So supports would probably help with the problem underneath this part. As for the other one, it probably could just use some more supports as well on the inside of the band. You might also notice that there's still a lot of shiny spots on these, and that is uncured resin. This stuff was a pain to wash. Even on these pieces that I have completely scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, there's still wet spots on it. So let's get really up close and personal with the macro lens so you can see every little detail and flaw. So all the little fins seem to print out fine. There is a little bit of lines on them. I didn't use anti-aliasing whatsoever on this. And I think it kind of fits with the whole mechanical theme anyways. And it just keeps things nice and crisp. So this is the one that I'm actually going to be casting. The other one's not going to go in through this casting process. I just wanted to see which orientation would do the best. And it looks like this one takes the cake for it. But before I do anything, I need to fix all the holes and imperfections in these pieces. So to do this, I just need to knock down any high points by filing them away or sanding them, and then I can start filling in any holes with wax. So I'm going to be using this electric wax setup. It works really good and it heats up extremely fast. You can use other tools like an alcohol lantern and wax carving bits, but it takes a lot longer and this is just a lot easier. And for the most part, all I'm doing is adding wax to fill in any holes, and then I'm going to be taking a wax carving tool and cutting out the rest of it so everything is nice and smooth. And when I do this, I'm not using a hot tool, so it's just a normal carving tool carving everything off. And you don't really have to worry about carving too much off because the printed piece is actually really rigid and it doesn't really carve away with your carving tools, and the heat doesn't really affect it whatsoever, so you can't melt a hole in it. So after all that, the only thing left to do is to set up my sprue tree, and I kind of went overboard with it because these are really thick pieces, but I think it's going to work out. Alright, so there we go, and it looks pretty good. I need to take it off of the base so we can figure out how much this weighs, so we know how much silver we need. And it looks like the whole thing weighs about 17 grams. So it's very simple. All you have to do is type in your weight, make sure that you pick wax for your model type, and then pick whatever metal you're casting with, and then push calculate. So this will take your weight and give you the exact amount of material you'll need to cast this, along with what the price of that material would be. So now that we have that number, I can weigh out exactly how much sterling silver I need. And this is going to go into my metal furnace, and I'll turn that on about an hour before the burnout is finished. I also need to prepare my flask for the investment, so I can let that sit for about 2 to 4 hours to harden up.
2 hours later.
So with that done, I'm just going to take off my tape and scrape off any extra investment so I have a flat surface to set this on. So according to the website, this needs to burn out for about 14 hours. If you happen to have this programmable kiln, I actually took the time to write down the entire program for this, and it'll be in the description. So since we have to wait for this to burn out, this is a perfect time for me to talk about the sponsor of this video, which is Skillshare. So I thought Skillshare would be a fitting sponsor for my channel, seeing that you come here to learn stuff, and Skillshare is a community for learning. And just like with my videos, you can learn at your own pace. And one of the things I really like about it is every class is project-oriented. So you're working towards a goal and not just learning random skills. So you'll actually have something by the end of it. So if you are wanting to start out learning some stuff about Fusion 360, I suggest Kevin Kennedy. He has a 3-part class that takes you from installing the program to getting just about all of the basics down. Also be sure to check out Vladimir Mariano. He has a bunch of classes on 3D printing and how to think in the terms of actually printing out objects, along with teaching you how to use Fusion 360 as well. So the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. This gives you full access to the entire catalog that Skillshare has to offer. And after that, Skillshare is as low as $10 a month with an annual subscription. So thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video and supporting my channel.
1 eternity later.
So finally, after all that work, it comes down to this moment where I pour my metal and hope that everything works out. And to me, this is one of the stressful parts about casting, when you reach into the bucket and hopefully find the pieces that you meant to make. Well, it actually looks like they came out pretty good, but we do need to clean them up because they can be hiding some problems. Alright, so here's the casting, kind of cleaned up. It still needs a little bit more, but we can at least get a look at it. So right in here, you can see that some of the fins didn't cast properly and kind of broke off. And over here, they look better. Right here, I had to fix a broken off fin when it was still wax. Same thing on this one. It looks like it just didn't cast well in the front part of the fins. And we'll find out more over here once we start actually cleaning it up. So now I get to do the fun part of sawing it all out. Alright, so I got one completely cleaned up, one to the point where it just has the sprues removed, and then of course here is the original print. So let's look at the difference. So you can see that there's a little bit of extra material here where there wasn't any on here, along with on the top. So you can see it all around right here and in there, which isn't that bad, but at the same time, it takes a long time to clean stuff up like that. So the fins on this side seem to have came out really good, besides the ones down here that I had to repair. And then you could see that there's a little bit of a droop in here from how the resin actually printed. And it transfers over to when you actually cast it. This side, on the other hand, it had a little bit of a problem right here with this fin, and it just broke off. So it looks good for the most part, but it's not perfect, as you can tell. And there's all these little inclusion parts everywhere. I did burn this out for exactly the amount of time that they said to, and use the temperatures and everything that I was told, but it still has these little problems. I'm sure with more playing with it, I can figure out the exact temps needed and get one of these to print out perfectly, but you're going to have to figure that out. There is a little bit of flash inside of here, just means that it broke in that area of the mold, and then when our metal came in, it filled in that area a little bit. It's not terrible, and it can be cut out pretty easily, but this is all stuff you have to keep in mind. And then our top was completely smooth when we put it in there for the most part, and you can see little inclusions here and there. So like I said, it's not perfect whatsoever, but it is passable for something like this, depending on what you're going for. So if we look at the one that I kind of polished up, you can still see that there are some weird spots here and there. I did do a really high polish on the top, but for the rest of it, it's just kind of polished. There are some spots here and here that are just missing a little bit of material. And this is where the sprue was, along with on this side. And then the same thing on this, it had a problem with the fin. Actually, a couple of the fins. So all in all, how do I like this castable resin? Well, it obviously does work to a point, but it is not perfect, as you can see. I'm sure if you played with it a bit and figured out the settings for printing perfectly, and then what temperatures it actually likes to be cast at, then you probably have a pretty good resin on your hands. This wasn't very hard to print other than the little bits of droopiness that I got, so that is a plus. Also, this is some of the cheapest resin on the market that I've seen. It's like $120 for 1 kilogram, when most others are around $300 per kilogram. So if you wanted to get some of this and play around with it and figure out all the settings, once you get them down, you're going to have really cheap resin to make your prints with. So that's an upside, but you're going to have to take that investment and figure out how your stuff is going to print. So it's really going to be up to you. I honestly would get some of this just to play with if I was just getting into this and trying to figure stuff out, because it is cheaper. But ultimately, it's going to be up to you. I'll have links in the description to everything in this video. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. And if you like the video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. I try to get out a video at least every week. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.